Hi, Greg Weldon here, and welcome back. Finally, part 3 of our Gold Investor Bootcamp. And I'll tell you what, I thank you for your patience. I wanted this to be, again, as comprehensive, as in-depth, as all-informative as it could be. And to me, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is the meat of the bootcamp right here in part 3, where I'm going to basically discuss kind of the history, so to speak, of gold, kind of the sequence we've been in leading to 1971, and how from 1971, this has just been one gigantic credit bubble created on the back of the seigniorage, the reserve currency status of the U.S. dollar, and how much debt, how much debasement of currencies has taken place, and kind of how this leads us through these bubbles, these boom and bust cycles, which keep getting bigger, and of course they do. And in 2007, 2008, it was so large. The question is, with the next potential wave of deflation, can central banks, in fact, address this with the same old methodologies? Can they use paper? Can they print this over again? And we're going to make some really cool analogies. I'm bringing you everything. I mean, really everything that I've been doing since I wrote the book in 2006. This stuff dates way back before that. I've been in the business 35 years, and this has been an evolution for me right along with the market. I mean, I've pretty much seen the entire dynamic. And when I look at where we are now, it's so crystallizing for me what my view has been since August. The reason we put this boot camp together, and in terms of some of the presentations I've made recently, and really kind of going back to the book, because it's the same thing as 2006, 2007, times 10, times 100, to where you now have global central banks, specifically the Fed, and I think I mentioned this before, in their last couple of speeches, just in the last 3 or 4 weeks, have been very specific about talking about R-star. We're going to discuss this. I'm going to explain it to you. We'll show you what it means. We'll show how it's applicable here. But the bottom line is, with so many bond markets, so much sovereign debt carrying a negative nominal yield, and R-star, which is basically the neutral policy rate for the globe, all right, at 0.5. The dynamic usually is you take real interest rates, all right, to some level 300-400 basis points below neutral to address a recession, to address a deflationary risk. You can't do that when you have a neutral policy rate for the globe that's considered 0.5. How are you supposed to get 400 basis points below 0.5? That means you have to have a minus 350 basis point official policy rate? That's not going to happen. And the Fed is very specific, worried about A, their inflation target credibility, and then B, can central banks face the next wave of disinflation, deflation? It's a major conundrum. The Fed is all over it. We're all over it. And it really, what it does is it leads to the biggest base case for gold, which is very simply a waning in confidence of all paper. Debt and currencies, same thing. It's an IOU from a government. And when you get in this position where you really start to wonder, can the European Central Bank paper their way out of this in terms of what the next potential deflationary wave coming down the pike? And again, the Fed almost kind of precipitating that coming down the pike right now in terms of being maybe too tight. And now they're flipping. And we'll see how all this plays out. But at the end of the day, what we see is gold appreciating in every paper currency in the world right now, today, as we go to tape this, June 11th. Lock and load, because this is really, to me, the best part. I really enjoyed putting this together, even though it took me a long time. Well worth the wait, in my opinion, because this is where the reality is. The case for gold, from the longer term perspective, and why you are taking this boot camp in the first place, is to better understand what's happening so you can be prepared not only, again, to survive, but to thrive. So let's get at it. Part 3 of our boot camp. Man, get ready, because this is going to be a good one.